Have you ever imagined becoming the kind of person who doesn't flinch, no matter how harsh the criticism, who faces rejection like it's nothing, and walks away from betrayal without a scratch? Picture this. You wake up one morning and that nagging pain in your chest, the one that tightens around your heart when you least expect it, finally lets go. You look at yourself in the mirror, and for the first time in years, you see a calmness in your eyes, a deep breath in your chest that feels like finally coming home. Sounds like freedom, right? But here's the catch. The more we push our emotions down, the stronger they hold us in their grip. From the moment we're old enough to understand, society teaches us that vulnerability is weakness. Man up, they say. Don't show them you're hurting. We plaster our lives and our social media feeds with cheesy quotes like, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Keep pushing and stay tough." We convince ourselves that these words are armor, but in reality, we're just nailing the doors to our own hearts shut. Every time we bury sadness with a little more work, distract ourselves with endless scrolling, or smother fear with forced optimism, we're building a wall between ourselves and the very connection and creativity that fuel us. Think about your emotions like a fast-flowing river carving through a canyon. Now, imagine trying to stop it by building a dam out of busyness, throwing up boards of work, piling on distractions, pouring in stoicism like concrete. At first, it might seem like you've won. The waters are calm, but rivers don't stay bottled up forever. Eventually, the pressure will build until a crack appears, maybe a throwaway comment from a coworker, an old memory resurfacing, or a sudden dip in your energy. That dam will break, and what comes rushing out isn't just a trickle, it's a full-on flood, an explosive burst of anger, a wave of panic that hits in the dead of night, a sadness that blindsides you out of nowhere. The emotional chaos will cause far more damage than the initial pain ever could. As Albert Einstein said, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. We try to outrun our feelings, to bury them, to distract ourselves, yet all that does is build up the emotional pressure until it bursts. We think we're controlling our emotions, but in reality, we're just delaying the inevitable. Dr. Serena Wallace, a clinical psychologist, compares emotional avoidance to quicksand, not a shield. She tells stories of clients, CEOs who filled every moment of their days with back-to-back meetings, parents who ran on empty, creatives who piled on projects one after the other, each running from a single traumatic event, a life-threatening car accident, the sudden end of a long-term relationship, or the loss of a loved one. At first, distractions work. The pain fades. But months later, that unresolved grief returns with a vengeance, showing up as exhaustion, irritability, or the breakdown of relationships. Their walls hold so tightly, they trap the very emotions they were trying to avoid. The thing is, avoiding emotional pain doesn't make it go away. It just postpones it. It's like trying to lock a wild animal in a cage, thinking you can keep it contained forever. At first, everything feels calm, even controlled. But eventually, the pressure builds, and that cage can't hold the beast anymore. The same goes for your emotions. If you keep running from them, pushing them down, they'll only build up until they explode in ways you never saw coming. This isn't just theoretical. Dr. Serena Wallace, a clinical psychologist, explains that avoiding emotions is like quicksand. You may feel like you're managing at first, but the more you struggle, the deeper you sink. She's worked with clients, corporate executives who schedule their days to the minute, parents who don't take a second to breathe, creative types who fill their lives with project after project, each one trying to outrun a single traumatic event, a life-threatening car crash, the sudden breakup of a long-term relationship, or the loss of a loved one. In the beginning, the distractions seem to work. The pain fades and life feels normal again. But over time, that unresolved grief comes back, often stronger than before, showing up as chronic exhaustion, mood swings, or even relationship breakdowns. The walls they've built to keep the pain out end up trapping it inside. Dr. Wallace's observations are backed by science. A study from Stanford University found that suppressing negative emotions activates the amygdala, the brain's emotional response center, causing it to react more intensely to stress. Over time, those who constantly suppress their feelings tend to experience heightened anxiety and overreactions to everyday challenges. By trying to hide our emotions, we end up training our brains to treat every small discomfort as a threat. Yet, even with all the evidence against emotional suppression, our culture still holds up emotional restraint as a badge of honor. We celebrate the athlete who never cries, the executive who remains unflappable under pressure, and the friend who always has it together. We mistake emotional rigidity for strength. But in reality, true strength comes not from bottling up our feelings, but from being able to acknowledge and process them with courage. True resilience isn't about suppressing discomfort. It's about embracing it. It's about standing face to face with your emotions, not trying to outrun them. When you can accept and feel your emotions without judgment, you start to take control of your emotional life. Instead of being overwhelmed by them, you learn to process them and use them as tools for personal growth. Silence isn't what we often think it is. It's not a void or a passive retreat. It's a powerful space. When you choose to remain silent, you're not just avoiding noise, you're actively reclaiming your energy. The world around us is noisy, always urging us to speak, to react, to defend ourselves. But true strength lies in knowing when not to respond. When you pause, when you take that moment to breathe and observe, you create room for clarity and inner peace. You stop reacting impulsively, and instead, you begin to respond with purpose. When you embrace silence, it's not about becoming distant or cold. It's about allowing yourself to exist without the pressure to constantly perform. It's the space where you can reconnect with yourself, free from the noise of external expectations. In this silence, you find your true power. You stop performing the roles you think others want you to play, and you start showing up as your authentic self. However, this transformation is not easy. People around you will notice the change. They'll feel the shift when you stop reacting to their every word or need. They might get frustrated, even accuse you of being distant or selfish. But in reality, all you're doing is stopping the cycle of emotional manipulation. You've stopped playing their game, and that makes them uncomfortable because they no longer have the power to control you. True power comes not from being a puppet to others' emotions, but from standing firm in your own sense of self. You can still care for others, but you no longer do it at the expense of your own well-being. Setting boundaries and saying no doesn't make you cold, it makes you strong. As you practice this, you start to create the life you want, one that aligns with your true self, not the expectations or needs of others. Over time, you'll realize that when you stop reacting immediately, when you choose silence instead of giving in to emotional impulses, the world around you starts to respect you more. People will either respect your boundaries or move away, and that's okay. The ones who stay are the ones who truly value you for who you are, not for what you can provide. True resilience doesn't come from avoiding the difficult emotions. It comes from being able to face them with awareness and understanding. It comes from taking the time to reflect, to process, and to move through discomfort rather than running from it. When you make silence your ally, you reclaim your life. You regain control over your emotional world and start living more authentically. And this transformation is not a one-time event. It's a continuous process. It's a lifelong practice of choosing presence over distraction, self-care over people-pleasing, and authenticity over the need to be liked. Every time you stand firm in your silence, every time you choose to let go of others' expectations, you build a deeper foundation of resilience. By learning to set boundaries, by reclaiming your emotional energy, and by facing your pain with courage and awareness, you begin to step into a version of yourself that is unshakable. The world around you will change as you change. You'll attract relationships that are grounded in mutual respect and understanding, not those based on emotional manipulation or unrealistic expectations. You'll find that when you stop giving away pieces of yourself, what remains is your true essence, authentic, strong, and free. This journey isn't easy, but it's one worth taking. Each step you take toward embracing your silence and transforming your relationship with pain is a step toward living a life of true freedom and fulfillment. So ask yourself, are you ready to let go of the need to please others? Are you ready to stand firm in your authenticity, no matter what the world says. Because when you do, you'll find that the power to live freely was within you all